You know, there's a new thing happening all around the country, and especially in the wealthiest of the wealthy areas. And there's an article about it recently in the New York Times. The Times ran a piece entitled Raising, with a Z, R-A-Z-I-N-G, Raising the Hamptons. Now, if you've ever lived around New York at all, you know that the Hamptons at the end of Long Island are where the wealthiest of the wealthy live, and where the most lavish and beautiful and most expensive homes are. But those homes are no longer expensive enough for the upper class, the elite, in our new, increasingly unequal, increasingly ultra-wealthy society, where the 0.01%, the 1 in 10,000 who's the wealthiest of the wealthy, is so much more wealthy than the rest of us that they literally don't know what to do with their money. So here's what's going on in wealthy areas like Beverly Hills and like the Hamptons. They talk about it here. A house that is purchased, let's say, for $3.7 million, a shingle-style house by the sea, formerly owned by a movie director, was torn down. The 4-bedroom, 3-bedroom house built in 1980 just wasn't enough. So they built a 7-bedroom, 9-bath house with 30-foot ceilings, exposed beams, a breakfast nook that seats 10. Now, to me, the words nook and seats 10 are mutually exclusive, but not in the world we're talking about. A breakfast nook that seats 10, a 16-seat lower-level theater, which is actually therefore smaller, not that much bigger than the nook, so call it a theater nook, a heated in-ground pool, and a pool house, art-filled and fully furnished, on the market for $11,950,000. That's like a 99-cent sale. You know, you don't say 12 million, you say 11,950,000, priced to move. Now, the builder behind this said older houses, and bear in mind, he tore down a house built in 1980, not 1880. Older houses, quote, don't have the atmosphere people are looking for today and don't have the light. Ceilings are low, meaning less than 30 feet, I imagine. Windows are small, meaning less than wall to ceiling and wall to wall. The new Hamptons houses have more air, more light, more space, more volume, with quick and easy access to the outside and lots of seating areas inside and outside. Now, I could go on and on about that, but that is the pattern. Spec houses, they buy a house for several $1 million, as much as $8-9 million, tear it down, build a $35 million house, and now you're talking real money. This is the world of the ultra-rich, and the old model of politics has been, if you want to run, you've got to flatter and cajole the people who buy these houses so that they'll give you the money to run a race. If you're a Democrat, you therefore naturally pivot to issues that feel safe and non-threatening to these people. Might be identity politics, might be a liberalization of Wall Street with a mild dollop of regulations. It might be a private sector neoliberal solution to our healthcare crisis, like the Affordable Care Act. You can't push the envelope because these are the people that pay your way. Not to mention that if you're that kind of Democrat, the real money in your future lies in all the board appointments you're going to get and all the hedge fund partnerships you're going to get once you leave elected office. That is the old model of the Democratic Party. So that's why we haven't been able to get a Democratic Party that is responsive to the needs of real people. That's why so many voters were suckered by Donald Trump, because they figured, well, he's so rich he doesn't have to ask for money, so he's really talking about our issues. Now, of course, that was a complete con, and we know that, but bear in mind that when the Democratic Party isn't offering real answers, you're not really, as a Democrat, in a moral position to judge voters who aren't buying what you're selling. That may be one of many reasons why the most popular politician in the United States by far nowadays is Bernie Sanders. Now, Bernie Sanders is not just the most popular politician in America, despite what the centrist Democrats would have you. He's not just the most popular politician in America with, white Bernie bro millennials. He is far and away the most popular politician among various groups of people of color and so on as well. So we're really talking about, look, and as far as money in politics goes, two last points about the last presidential election. Hillary Clinton outspent Donald Trump by 2-to-1. So all that rich people money apparently doesn't help you too much if you don't have the message that people are picking up on. Now, people are going to object to that. They're going to say, well, but she got 3 million votes more than he did. But you know what? They knew the rules going in of how the Electoral College works. As the old saying goes, you had one job. You had one job, and they didn't do it. And let's not talk about Hamilton electors and overruling the will of the people. Or Hamilton may make for a great musical, but he hated democracy, and he's not a good avatar, not a good look for the Democratic Party right now. Now, the Bernie Sanders brand, by contrast, and I'm not saying Bernie's perfect, even though I work for him and I feel a lot of loyalty towards him. I'm not saying he's perfect, but I will say it has gone global. In France, the left-wing candidate is consciously describing himself as the French Bernie Sanders. Now, that got a fair amount of publicity when he did that, when Mélenchon did that. That's the candidate's name. But what did not get popularity, or rather publicity, excuse me, as much as Mélenchon's embrace of Bernie Sanders, was the fact that the Socialist Party candidate also described himself as the French Bernie Sanders. Now, that's interesting and that's important, because what's going on here is a global rebellion against the elites that have ruled the country for so long. Now, if the Republicans, let's say, just a thought experiment, if the Republicans had run Jeb Bush and the Democrats had run Bernie Sanders, you would have seen that backlash work in the Democrats' favor. But because Hillary Clinton was perceived as the party of the sort of bipartisan consensus group that's been in power for so long, she got the worst end of that backlash. Now, the socialists in France and in Spain are also seen as the insiders. We think of socialists in a different way in the United States, and rightfully so, but the socialist parties in places like France really represent the neoliberal consensus, which is why, and it's been terrible there, as it's been terrible here for most people. So that's why François Hollande, the outgoing French president, is so unpopular. That's why his successor, even though in the Socialist Party, even though he's well to the left of Hollande, is doing and sinking. He's like single digits in the polls. I don't know the exact number now, about 8%, I think. So that's why. Because if you're part of the insider group that has failed the people don't want you. So left-wing, the message I would say, whether you're Jean-Luc Mélenchon or here in the United States, is that a left-wing alternative sells. Meanwhile, the Democrats continue to take, for example, banking advice from Robert Rubin. Now, Robert Rubin was Bill Clinton's Treasury Secretary. He became CEO of Citigroup. Based on the evidence I've seen, probably should have been prosecuted, certainly should have been investigated, was not, was given a free pass by the Obama administration. Now he's doing things like writing editorials for the New York Times, an op-ed he published recently entitled, "Don't Politicize the Federal Reserve." Now, that's obviously a rejection of what Trump wants to do. But, what the Democrats ought to be thinking about instead is how to take institutions like the Federal Reserve and politicizing them, not in a partisan way, but so that they serve the American people. When Democrats come to understand that government is here to serve the people, they may actually be a party that the American people want to vote for. Until then, we consider ourselves independent leftists trying to push them in the right direction.